Okay, so you're thinking of buying a pair of AirPods. Which one do you buy? Apple do 4 different types of AirPods right now, and I have bought many AirPods over the years. I've pretty much had every single generation since they've come out. But in front of me, I've got the AirPods 4, the AirPods Pro 3, and the AirPods Max. I want to compare the three, show the differences, show you why they differ in price, and share my personal opinions as well. I think what is great though, is that Apple have made AirPods for pretty much every single type of person. So it really comes down to what features and functionality you're looking for and how much you're willing to spend. So first, let's get into the design differences. You can see very significant design differences here, size differences specifically. The AirPods 4, it always blows me away how much smaller and how much more compact they seem to just keep making these. The AirPods 4 to me are some of the cutest pair of AirPods. They're just so small and fit into the palm of your hand very easily. And it makes them very, very convenient. Same with the AirPods Pro 3, but it is a bit wider. You can see the size difference here between the AirPods 4 and the AirPods Pro 3. The thickness is pretty much exactly the same, but yeah, it's just a bit wider. But when it comes to the AirPods Max, yeah, these are ginormous compared to the standard AirPods 4 and the AirPods Pro 3. But of course, the design is completely different. These are over-ear headphones. When I have them on, it's sort of just, my ears fit perfectly within the actual I don't even know what you call it, like ear pads, I guess. I can feel them very cocooned. I can barely hear the outside. The seal is very good. It's almost a bit bizarre how good the sort of seal is. And yeah, I think they also look pretty good. But if we go back to the AirPods 4 and the AirPods Pro 3, of course, the actual ear tip design for each of them is very, very different. So the AirPods Pro 3 is an in-ear tip design. And the AirPods 4 is just a standard that sort of just sits inside your ear. It doesn't actually sort of make a seal like the tips do on the AirPods Pro 3. And that's a significant design difference. I know for a lot of people, the in-ear tip design just doesn't work for them. It just doesn't feel right, doesn't feel comfortable for them. So the design of the AirPods 4 just makes more sense. I personally prefer the AirPods Pro 3. I like the in-ear tip design. I like the seal that it gives. I love how it sort of isolates you from the outside world. It does a very good job with noise cancellation as well. I think when it comes down to which one feels the most comfortable, you do just have to try them both. You have to see what makes sense for you, because there are some big differences between the AirPods 4 and the AirPods Pro 3. The differences, of course, start with the prices. So the AirPods 4 are $129 and the AirPods Pro 3 are $249. However, the AirPods 4, there is another version with the active noise cancellation, which goes for $179. So it's essentially the same, but you get active noise cancellation and you also get a wireless charging case. So you can charge it wirelessly on a sort of cheap wireless charging pad. The AirPods Pro 3 already comes with wireless charging built in. So yeah, there is a big price difference there between the two. If $249 just seems a bit too much for you, I really would recommend the AirPods 4. For $129, I think you're getting a great pair of earbuds here that I think sound good. If you were to get the active noise cancellation version of the AirPods 4 and were to compare them with the AirPods Pro 3 and the AirPods Max, I have actually found that the AirPods Pro 3 has the best noise cancellation, purely just because of the design itself. So that in-ear tip design, where it sits right in your ear, it sits right inside, because it creates such a good seal and because Apple have done such a good job with the noise cancellation, for me, this has the best noise cancellation. Like, no doubt, I can definitely tell the difference. I find it better than the AirPods Max. The AirPods Max used to be the best, but because it's an over-ear design and it's not fully sealed, because obviously you still need some squishiness for the pads for it to be comfortable, it's not as good as the AirPods Pro 3, but that doesn't mean it's bad. It's still very, very good. The AirPods 4 though, with the ANC, because they don't have a sealed design, the noise cancellation isn't as good. So I have some data here. You get around 75% sound reduction with the AirPods 4 with active noise cancellation. You get around 90% noise reduction, and then you get around 80 to 90% with the AirPods Max. The sort of usage varies because of course it depends on like your head shape and the way you have them and whatever else. But yeah, AirPods Pro 3 are definitely the best when it comes to noise cancellation. The other issue with the AirPods 4 with the noise cancellation is because it's an open design, the low frequencies are going to get through quite easily. The only reason I think to get the noise cancellation version of the AirPods 4 is if you don't like the in-ear tip design of the AirPods Pro 3. Otherwise, I just think it's worth saving the money and going for the standard AirPods 4 for $129. A feature they all have apart from the base model AirPods 4 is the transparency mode. So transparency mode is when you can hear everything around you whilst you still have the earbuds in. Transparency mode, the way Apple do it, is just incredible. It's one of the best. You can easily have them in and have a full-blown conversation with someone. However, personally, for me in social settings, I actually find it rude when I leave my AirPods in and I'm trying to speak to someone. I always take them out because I just feel like it's more polite to take your AirPods out and speak to someone. I just think it makes more sense. But of course, you know, there are times where maybe you have gloves on, maybe you're rushing, you don't want to quickly take them out or whatever, or your hands are full. Being able to have transparency mode is amazing. Like, it's so good. When it comes to sound quality, like I said, I'm not really specifically an audiophile, but I do appreciate good quality audio. For me, because of the seal of the AirPods Pro 3 and the noise cancellation, for me, this actually sounds the best. It sounds better than the AirPods Max. However, I have found that it also depends on the situation, because when I'm using my AirPods, it's usually when I'm traveling. So I need the active noise cancellation to block out all the noise so that I can hear the music, the audio for a movie, TV show, whatever. But I have found that if I'm in a controlled environment, the AirPods Max just does sound fuller. It sounds better to me because the drivers are bigger, the actual speakers within them are bigger. So it sounds more like a wider soundstage. I think that's the best way to explain it. But what did surprise me is the bass that the AirPods 4 do, considering they're not a sort of in-ear tip design. I was really impressed with the bass. I think most people, unless you're an audiophile, you're not going to be able to tell the difference between the sound quality of all of them. Like I said, I think they all actually sound good. I don't think you can go wrong with any of them, really. There are a couple of features though with the AirPods Pro 3 that none of the other AirPods have. The first one is the hearing aid and the sort of hearing test functionality that it has. So I actually used it for a hearing test myself to see what it's like. And yeah, my hearing test, thankfully, my hearing results are really good. I have no hearing loss at all. But there's such a unique feature in a pair of AirPods. And I think it's a very Apple thing to do, to have a sort of more health-related feature in here. FDA approved and everything. And I think for lots of people, that's actually going to be the main reason why they're going to choose the AirPods Pro 3. If you have hearing loss and stuff, and you need a hearing aid, this is actually a really good choice. Something I am going to say though, which is actually probably going to make me sound a bit like a dad, is please take care of your hearing. Hearing is so important, and I feel like such an important sense that we have. And it's one of those things where you don't know you've done damage to it until it's too late. And right now there is no way to recover it. Once your hearing has gone, it's gone. Like, you can't go back. Hopefully science changes that at some point, but really, please do take care of your hearing. It's so important. Another key feature with the AirPods Pro 3 is that there is a heart rate sensor built into it. So it detects your heart rate through your ear. Now, I'll be honest, it's not something I've used at all, primarily because I haven't needed to. I usually have an Apple Watch on or I have a Whoop on. So I've not really needed to use it, but it's there. Maybe you're someone who likes to do activities and stuff without a watch on. You can have your heart rate tracking through your AirPods. Now on to battery life. I've actually had to write this down because there's so much here. AirPods 4, without noise cancellation, you can get 5 hours with the earbuds, and then a total of 30 hours when using the case. And you can put it in the case, and I think you can charge it for like 5 minutes and you get an hour of listening. With noise cancellation though, you get 4 hours of listening time and 20 hours with the case. With the AirPods Pro 3, you get up to 8 hours of listening with active noise cancellation, and you get 24 hours when using the case, recharging with the case. And then with the AirPods Max, you get up to 20 hours of battery life. So technically, the standard AirPods 4 actually has the best battery life with the case. You get 30 hours. 30 hours is plenty. I don't see battery life really being an issue. And I like how with both the AirPods 4 and the AirPods Pro 3, you can put it in a case for 5 minutes and you get an hour of listening time. You do get longer listening time between charges with the AirPods Pro 3 though. You get up to 8 hours. So if you're on a longer flight, that could be quite useful. However, I do long flights quite regularly. I do flights over 10 hours quite regularly. I've never really felt like the 8 hours is an issue because, of course, when you're on a flight that long, you're taking breaks, you're not always listening to your music, maybe you're having a nap or whatever it might be. So I've not had an issue with 8 hours and I think it's plenty. Obviously, with these it's even less. It's 4 or 5 hours depending on the noise cancellation. But again, I think for most people, it's just not going to be an issue because you can quickly charge it for 5 minutes and get another hour of listening. Now, to quickly cover the pricing again, $129, $249, and $549. So the price differences are big, there's a big price range there. I think, personally, for me, the AirPods Pro 3 are the ones to go for. I think they're a good balance between the AirPods 4 and the AirPods Max. You get incredible sound quality, you get incredible noise cancellation, and you get great battery life. For me, these are the ones I always pick up and the ones that I use. They have replaced my AirPods Max when I travel. My AirPods Max used to be the ones I always used to travel with. Now it's the AirPods Pro 3, mainly because of the convenience and the sound quality. Like, it just does the job. It's such a good pair of earbuds, but they are $249. If you're someone in the Apple ecosystem, I just think it makes so much sense to go with the AirPods. If you have a MacBook, if you have an iPhone, if you have an iPad, being able to quickly switch between the devices, change settings and stuff, it's just so convenient. No having to mess around with stuff, it just works. I think the only reason to go with the AirPods Max is if you don't like in-ear buds at all, you want high sound quality, you want something that objectively to some people looks really stylish, to some people looks really ugly. I think they look really good and they are very, very premium feeling. These are actually the original pair from like 2020. And look at them. I've taken them on so many flights and they still look brand new. They've held up so incredibly well. But like I said, I don't really use them as much anymore because the AirPods 3 have just become that good. And also $549, that's a lot of money for these. You can get two of these for a pair of these, which does make it a harder sell. But I think if you're someone who's considering this, you probably already know what you want, what you need, and you already probably know how much they're going for. So I feel like they shouldn't even really be compared with the other AirPods just because they're so different and so much more expensive than these. Anyway, hopefully that helps with your decision making. Like I said, AirPods Pro 3 are my favorite. Let me know in the comments which ones are your favorite. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter and subscribe for more.